The Christmas celebration had just come to an end, and these 4 students of the University of Benin headed back to school, but something sinister and evil awaits them on their way back to school. Subscribe to the channel and write in the comments where you are watching from. One Sunday morning, as the sun was just beginning to shine brightly, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, as 4 university students prepared for their journey back to Benin. The holidays had been a well-deserved respite from the rigors of academic life, filled with family gatherings, laughter, and the comfort of home-cooked meals. But now, as the new semester loomed, it was time to return to their shared world of lectures, study sessions, and campus life. Their destination was the University of Benin, a bustling hub of academic excellence and youthful energy, but first they had to navigate the journey ahead. Tunde, the eldest of the group at 23, was the natural leader. He exuded a quiet confidence that put others at ease, even in the face of uncertainty. Standing tall with a sturdy build, his neatly groomed beard and sharp eyes gave him an air of maturity beyond his years. As the owner of the car they would be traveling in, he had taken it upon himself to ensure everything was in order. The night before, he had meticulously checked the oil, water, and tire pressure, leaving no detail unattended. For Tunde, preparation was not just a habit but a philosophy. Ada, 21, was the planner of the group. With her sharp wit and meticulous nature, she was often the voice of reason among her friends. Her petite frame belied a fiery determination, and her sharp eyes often missed nothing. Ada had spent the previous evening packing snacks and double-checking the route on her phone. Though she trusted Tunde's driving skills, she had downloaded a GPS app just in case. Her favorite green backpack, filled with essentials, sat neatly by the door of her family's home as she bid her parents goodbye that morning. Bola, the group's comic relief, was a bundle of energy and humor. At 22, his quick wit and infectious laugh could lighten even the tensest moments. Standing slightly shorter than Tunde, but with a stocky build, Bola was always ready with a joke or a quip. He had been teasing Ada all morning about her over-preparation, pointing to the snacks and saying, "Are we going on a road trip or opening a grocery store?" Despite his playful demeanor, Bola had a deep sense of loyalty to his friends, and his humor often masked a keen sense of observation. Finally, there was Femi, the quiet and introspective one. At 20, he was the youngest, but often the most thoughtful. Femi was tall and slender, with glasses perched on his nose and a perpetual air of contemplation. He had spent the previous night poring over a novel, his love for literature evident in the way he carried himself. His bag was packed with books, notebooks, and a tablet, reflecting his studious nature. Femi was the kind of person who noticed the things others overlooked, a trait that would prove invaluable in the hours to come. By 7 a.m., the group was assembled at Tunde's family home, a modest yet welcoming house with a well-tended garden. Tunde's mother, a warm and spirited woman, had prepared a hearty breakfast for the travelers. Plates of fried plantains, eggs, and bread were devoured with enthusiasm, accompanied by cups of steaming tea. "Make sure you drive safely, Tunde," his mother said, her voice tinged with concern. "And don't forget to call when you arrive in Benin." "Yes, Mama," Tunde replied with a reassuring smile. "We'll be fine, don't worry." The car, a reliable Toyota Corolla, was packed and ready. Ada had ensured that the snacks were neatly stowed in the back seat, alongside Bola's duffel bag and Femi's books. Tunde took the driver's seat, with Ada beside him as the self-appointed navigator. Bola and Femi settled into the back, their banter filling the car with a light-hearted atmosphere. As they pulled out of the driveway, Tunde honked the horn twice in farewell, and his mother waved from the doorway. The journey had begun. The roads were relatively quiet that morning, with only a few vehicles and the occasional motorbike passing by. The early sunlight bathed the landscape in a golden glow, highlighting the lush greenery that lined the highways. The group's conversation flowed easily, ranging from their holiday experiences to their plans for the new semester. "Did you hear about Professor Okoro's new research project?" Femi asked, adjusting his glasses. Yes, Ada replied. Apparently, it's about sustainable agriculture. I'm hoping to join his team if there's an opening. You and your big plans, Bola teased, throwing a pack of gum into Ada's lap. Just don't forget us little people when you're a famous researcher. Ada rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a smile. As if anyone could forget you, Bola. Tunda chuckled from the driver's seat. Let's just make sure we get back to campus in one piece before we start planning our futures. The group laughed, their camaraderie evident in the ease of their interactions. But beneath the laughter, there was a subtle tension. Femi had noticed something unusual earlier that morning, a news alert about increasing incidents of roadside robberies in the region. He had mentioned it briefly, but the others had shrugged it off, unwilling to let fear dampen their spirits. About 2 hours into the journey, the landscape began to shift. The lush greenery gave way to denser foliage, and the road became narrower. The air felt heavier, the sun now high in the sky and casting long shadows across the terrain. Tunda kept his eyes on the road, his hands steady on the wheel, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Does anyone else feel like we're in the middle of nowhere? Bola asked, peering out the window. It's just the route, Ada said, checking the GPS on her phone. We're still on track. Don't worry. As if on cue, they spotted a figure by the roadside ahead. It was an elderly woman, waving frantically beside a stationary car. Her vehicle, an old sedan, appeared to have broken down, the hood propped open and steam rising from the engine. Should we stop? Tunda asked, slowing the car slightly. Of course, Ada said immediately. She looks like she needs help. I don't know, Femi said hesitantly. This area is pretty remote. It could be a trap. Come on, Femi, Bola said, shaking his head. She's just an old woman. What kind of trap involves an old lady? Tunda glanced at Ada, who nodded. We'll be quick, he said, pulling over. As they stepped out of the car, the group was unaware that their decision to help would soon plunge them into a nightmare. For now they approached the woman with good intentions, their thoughts focused solely on assisting someone in need. As Tunda and Ada approached the old woman, her frail frame and wrinkled face seemed to radiate desperation. She was clutching a small handbag and gesturing wildly towards the car engine, which was still steaming. Good afternoon, Ma, Tunda said politely, his tone calm. What happened to your car? The woman's voice was shaky but clear. My car just stopped here, and I don't know what to do. Please help me. I've been here for hours. Ada leaned in to inspect the car. Looks like the radiator overheated. Do you have water? She asked, glancing up at the woman. Before the woman could respond, there was a sudden rustling sound from the bushes nearby. Tunda's instincts kicked in immediately, and he turned his head sharply towards the noise. His eyes widened as he saw a group of men emerging from the forest, their faces partially covered with scarves, and rifles slung over their shoulders. Tunda. Ada's voice broke through his momentary shock as one of the men raised his gun and barked an order. Oya, everybody down. Now. The man shouted, his voice rough and commanding. The group froze, the reality of the situation sinking in. Bola and Femi, still by the car, exchanged panicked glances. Bola muttered under his breath, I knew something didn't feel right. Oya, move. Another man growled, gesturing with his weapon. The students quickly obeyed, their hearts racing as they were herded towards the forest. The old woman, who had seemed so helpless moments ago, now stood with a smirk on her face. She stepped back and let the men take control. Ada's voice was shaky as she whispered to Tunda, What are we going to do? Just stay calm, Tunda replied, his voice low but firm. Let's see what they want. The men led the group deeper into the forest, their guns trained on the students. The air grew colder, the dense canopy of trees blocking out the sun. The students stumbled over roots and rocks, but any sign of resistance was met with harsh shoves from their captors. Femi, always the observer, took mental notes of their surroundings. He noticed a small trail of broken twigs and disturbed leaves, silently hoping it might help someone track them later. Bola, on the other hand, couldn't resist muttering under his breath, Of all the days to play hero. This is how people end up on news headlines. Shut up, one of the men snarled, smacking Bola on the back with the butt of his rifle. They were brought to a small clearing where the kidnappers' camp was set up. There were makeshift tents, a few barrels, and a fire pit surrounded by logs. The leader of the group, a tall man with piercing eyes, stepped forward. "Who are you people, and what are you doing here?" he demanded, his voice cold. Tunda stepped forward slightly, trying to project confidence. "We're just students traveling back to school. We don't have any money or anything valuable. Please, let us go." The leader's lips curled into a sinister smile. "We'll see about that," he motioned to his men. "Search them and tie them up." Ada let out a small gasp as her bag was ripped from her shoulder. The men rifled through their belongings, finding nothing of great value but taking their phones and wallets nonetheless. The students were then tied up and made to sit on the ground, their backs against one of the large trees in the clearing. As the captors discussed their next move, the students exchanged nervous glances. Tunda's jaw was set, his mind racing to think of a way out. Ada's hands trembled, but she tried to stay calm. Bola, for once, was silent, while Femi's eyes darted around, analyzing every detail of their surroundings. The old woman, now seated comfortably by the fire, seemed completely at ease. She laughed softly as she spoke to one of the kidnappers. "These ones won't give you much trouble. They look too scared to try anything." But little did the kidnappers know, the Nigerian soldiers had already received a tip about unusual activity in the area. The stage was set for a confrontation that would test everyone's strength and resolve. It was a hot afternoon at the nearby military barracks when the tip-off came in. A local hunter had stumbled upon the abandoned Toyota Corolla and noticed signs of a struggle. He had seen footprints leading into the forest and, fearing the worst, reported it to the nearest authorities. "Oga, we don hear say some people don carry students enter bush." The soldier relaying the message explained to his commander, Captain Danjuma. "Dem say the motor D for roadside and the students deemed a find." Captain Danjuma, a seasoned officer known for his no-nonsense approach, immediately called his team together. "Gentlemen, we get work to do," he said, his tone sharp. "This kind nonsense no fit happen under our watch. Mobilize the team, make we move now." Within minutes, the soldiers were geared up and ready. Their rifles were checked, radios tuned, and maps studied. The forest was dense, but Captain Danjuma had led enough rescue missions to know how to navigate such terrain. "Oya, move out," he ordered, climbing into one of the military trucks. The convoy roared to life, kicking up clouds of dust as it sped towards the location. Tracking the trail. Olay. As the soldiers arrived at the scene, they quickly fanned out, examining the area for clues. The hunter who had reported the incident pointed them towards the disturbed foliage. "Now here I see the footprints," he explained, gesturing towards the forest. "Dim go that side." "Good work," Captain Danjuma said. "Corporal Musa, take point. Make sure say everybody day alert. We no fit take chances." The soldiers moved in formation, their boots crunching softly against the undergrowth. They were silent, their eyes scanning every shadow, every rustle of leaves. Corporal Musa, a skilled tracker, led the way, his keen eyes spotting subtle signs of movement, a snapped twig here, a displaced leaf there. "Sir, e be like say we day close," Musa whispered after some time. "I fit hear faint voices ahead." Captain Danjuma raised his hand, signaling the team to halt. "Everybody, hold position," he ordered quietly. "We go plan our attack from here." The soldiers crouched low as Danjuma outlined the strategy. "We go divide into 2 groups. Alpha team go circle round and take position for the other side. Bravo team go advance from here. Once we surround them, we go give team chance to surrender. If team no agree, we go engage." The men nodded, their faces set with determination. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. Lives were on the line, and failure was not an option. Alpha team moved silently through the trees, their movements precise and calculated. Bravo team, led by Captain Danjuma, advanced slowly towards the clearing. As they drew closer, The voices of the kidnappers became clearer. "Oga, what'n we go do with these people?" one of the men was saying. "Dem no even get money." "Keep quiet," the leader snapped. "We go figure 'em out. Just make sure say Deem no try anything stupid." The soldiers positioned themselves, their weapons at the ready. Captain Danjuma gave the signal, and the forest erupted in action. Nigerian army, drop your weapons now. Danjuma's voice boomed as the soldiers emerged from the shadows, their rifles trained on the kidnappers. For a moment there was stunned silence. Then, chaos broke loose. The clearing erupted in chaos as the kidnappers scrambled for their weapons. Captain Danjuma's voice cut through the commotion. "Fire only if necessary. We need to protect the hostages." One of the kidnappers shouted in Hausa, "Ku tersu, katakubarsu suyai nasara, surround them. Don't let them win." His men took defensive positions behind trees and barrels, their rifles firing sporadically. Ada screamed as a bullet ricocheted off a nearby tree. Tundi instinctively shielded her, his mind racing. "Stay low," he whispered urgently. The soldiers advanced in tactical formation, their precision evident. Alpha team, flank left. Bravo team, suppress fire. Captain Danjuma commanded. His men moved swiftly, their boots crunching against the forest floor. Corporal Musa, positioned with Alpha team, noticed one of the kidnappers attempting to retreat deeper into the forest. "Oga, one of them day run go that side," he reported in a hushed tone. Danjuma nodded sharply. "Pursue am, but make sure say you no lose formation." Musa gestured to two other soldiers, and they silently broke off to track the fleeing man. Meanwhile, the exchange of gunfire intensified in the clearing. The kidnappers, though desperate, were determined to hold their ground. One of them yelled in Hausa again, "Doki masu bendiga mafikao. Katakubari su kawo karshan mu." Grab the better rifles. Don't let them finish us off. Amid the chaos, Tunde kept his body low to the ground, shielding Ada and the others as best as he could. Bola, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally whispered, "Tunde, we need to find a way to get free. These ropes are cutting into my wrists." Femi, ever observant, had already started working on loosening the ropes with the sharp edge of a small stone he had found nearby. "I day try, but ego takes small time," he said in a low voice, his hands working furiously behind his back. Ada's eyes darted between the soldiers and the kidnappers, her heart pounding. "Tunde, what if they don't make it in time? These men look like they'll do anything to escape." Tunde's jaw tightened. "The soldiers go hand-a-lamb. We just need to stay alive and find any chance to help them help us." One of the kidnappers suddenly noticed their movements. Miyak Farwa. Kunakokaran Sirwane. What is happening? Are you trying to escape?" he barked in Hausa, raising his rifle. Before he could act, a soldier from Alpha Team emerged from the shadows and fired a warning shot. The kidnapper turned to face the threat but was quickly subdued with a precise shot to the leg. He fell to the ground with a cry of pain, clutching his injured limb. "Hostages day secured, sir," the soldier shouted, signaling to Captain Danjuma. Realizing that they were losing ground, the leader of the kidnappers yelled, "Munyi Shiridan Wanan Rana. Kushiro Kayandiga Sikin Menyanjaka." We prepared for this day. Bring out the weapons from the large bags. Two of his men hurried to a pile of supplies near one of the makeshift tents, pulling out a larger firearm and additional ammunition. The gunfire from their side became more aggressive, forcing the soldiers to momentarily retreat into cover. Captain Danjuma, seeing the shift in firepower, barked into his radio, "Alpha Team, increase pressure on their right flank. Bravo Team, hold position and cover fire. We no go give these criminals any chance." The coordinated effort paid off. Alpha Team's flank maneuver forced the kidnappers out of their entrenched positions, exposing them to Bravo Team's suppressive fire. One by one, the kidnappers began to falter, their resistance weakening. In a last-ditch effort, the leader of the kidnappers grabbed Ada by the arm, dragging her to her feet. He pressed a pistol to her head and yelled, "Dakata, Kudakatar Dawuda, Kokumazam Kashita. Stop firing or I will kill her." The soldiers froze, their weapons trained on the man. Ada's eyes were wide with terror, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Tunda's voice broke through the tense silence. "Leave her alone. She no do you anything." The leader sneered. "You think I day play? Tell your soldiers to drop their guns, or she go die here." Captain Danjuma stepped forward, his rifle still raised but his tone calm. "Oga, listen to me. You know fit win this fight. If you harm her, may your own life go end here. Drop your weapon, and we go fit talk." For a moment, the leader hesitated, his eyes darting between Ada and the advancing soldiers. In that split second, Corporal Musa, who had been slowly positioning himself, took the shot. The bullet struck the kidnapper's arm, causing him to drop the pistol and releasing Ada from his grip. She stumbled forward, and Tunda caught her, pulling her back to safety. With their leader incapacitated, the remaining kidnappers surrendered, dropping their weapons and raising their hands. The soldiers quickly secured the area, disarming and restraining the captives. Captain Danjuma surveyed the scene, his face stern but relieved. "Mission accomplished. Hostages day safe, and we don capture the criminals," he said, speaking into his radio. Tunde, Ada, Bola, and Femi were untied and brought to the soldiers' temporary command post. Ada was trembling, her hands clutching Tunde's arm. Bola, though visibly shaken, managed a weak grin. "Next time I go listen to Femi when he talk about danger signs." Femi adjusted his glasses, his voice steady despite the chaos. "The important thing be say we day alive. Thank God for these soldiers." Captain Danjuma approached the group, his expression softening. "Una do well to stay calm under this cane situation. But next time make una day careful. This kind area no day safe for road trips." Tunda nodded, his gratitude evident. "Thank you, sir. Una save our lives today." The students were escorted back through the forest by the soldiers, who formed a protective perimeter around them. It felt surreal to be walking alongside these battle-hardened men, their rifles slung over their shoulders, eyes constantly scanning the trees for any movement. Every step the students took felt heavier, laden with the weight of what they had just survived. Yet, with each step away from the kidnappers' camp, they felt a little bit safer. As they emerged from the dense foliage and back onto the narrow road, they saw the convoy of military trucks parked a short distance away, the engines still running. The students were ushered into the back of one of the trucks. Tunda and Ada climbed in first, followed by Bola and Femi, the soldiers closing the gates behind them. The ride was long, silent, and bumpy. The students sat huddled in the back, the dimming light casting shadows across their tired faces. Their bodies were sore, their minds exhausted, but there was an overwhelming sense of gratitude that filled the space. Captain Danjuma had assured them that they would be taken back to the military barracks for further safety and care. It was an unexpected turn of events. None of them had ever imagined that their routine journey would end like this. They were now headed toward the barracks for debriefing, medical checks, and for a bit of recovery. Emotional reunion with parents. As the convoy of military trucks approached the barracks, the soldiers noticed a small crowd of people gathered outside the gates. News of the kidnapping and rescue had spread quickly, and a few families had managed to reach the barracks. When the truck stopped, parents and relatives surged forward, their faces a mix of worry and hope. Among them were Tundi's mother, Ada's father, Bola's older brother, and Femi's aunt. Tundi's mother was the first to spot her son. She broke into a run, her face pale with fear. When she reached Tunde, she threw her arms around him, pulling him into a tight embrace. My son, I was so worried," she cried, her voice trembling. Tunde's throat tightened as he hugged her back, unable to find the words to comfort her. He had been worried too, but seeing her safe and alive was all that mattered now. Ada's father approached next, his face a mixture of disbelief and relief. He looked at Ada with wide eyes, as though unsure if what he was seeing was real. He pulled her into a hug, his hands shaking as he held her close. "You're all right, my daughter. Thank God you're all right," he murmured. Bola's brother, always the stoic one, was next. He said nothing at first, just grabbed Bola's arm and pulled him into a brief, tight hug. Bola, never one to be sentimental, just laughed awkwardly. "Big bro, can you stop squeezing me?" "I'm fine, just a little shaken." Femi's aunt, an elderly woman with soft eyes, simply placed a hand on his shoulder and said nothing. She didn't need to say anything. Her gaze spoke volumes. The emotional reunion was short but filled with raw emotion. There were tears, laughter, and exclamations of relief. Parents held their children close, whispering prayers of gratitude, the fear of the past hours slowly lifting from their hearts. The students, though drained from the ordeal, couldn't help but feel a wave of love and support surround them. Before the students were released to their families, Captain Danjuma approached them one last time. His face was no longer filled with the stern focus of battle, but rather a quiet compassion. He gave a short nod to each of the students. "I know this has been a hard day for all of you," Captain Danjuma said, his voice firm but kind. "You were lucky today. But there's one thing I want you to remember. You did not give up. You didn't let fear take control. You survived, and that makes you stronger than any of us can imagine." The students nodded, humbled by his words. They weren't the same people who had set out on this journey that morning. They were different, more aware of their own strength, more appreciative of the fragility of life. As the parents escorted their children away from the barracks, the group exchanged one final glance. Their bond, forged in the heat of terror and triumph, would never be the same. But they had made it through together. And that was something they would carry with them forever. Thanks for watching this story to the end. Before you go, help me grow this community. Hit the like button and subscribe for more uploads. Comment below with your theories and reactions. Share with friends and family who love good stories. I will see you in our next video, and thanks for being an amazing part of this journey.